Right now, on to the point. A new accusation of sexual abuse against actor-director Timothy Busfield. The alleged incident happening at a Sacramento theater. California healthcare advocates pushing back.
The responsibility does lie in your hands.
Why they're warning budget cuts could put care at risk for millions. A high-stakes battle brewing over a proposed billionaire tax. The warning tonight from Silicon Valley leaders.
Couponing can absolutely make a difference.
And as grocery prices continue to rise, some practical tips for lowering your food bill. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and we do start with breaking news. We are getting information into our newsroom of a shooting in North Minneapolis tonight involving federal law enforcement. Take a look at this video from Minneapolis. You can see emergency crews on scene along with protesters. We are still gathering information on this. Please make sure you stay with us on air and online for details. All right, to our first story tonight. Actor and director Timothy Busfield is facing another accusation tonight. Another victim's family is accusing him of sexual abuse in Sacramento, saying that she was 16 years old at the time. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen has been going through new court documents today. Jeannie, what else can you tell us?
Well, Alex, the victim's father actually reported this to law enforcement yesterday as Busfield turned himself in New Mexico on other charges. He said it happened at the B Street Theater in downtown Sacramento.
Facing 2 counts of criminal sexual contact of a minor and 1 count of child abuse, actor Timothy Busfield appeared before a judge for the first time in Albuquerque, New Mexico on Wednesday. He's accused of abusing 2 child actors.
I'm going to confront these lies. They're horrible. They're all lies. And I did not do anything to those little boys.
A judge ordered he remain in custody, but court documents show another victim has come forward from an incident that happened in Sacramento. The victim's father reported to officials on Tuesday that the sexual abuse happened several years ago while she was auditioning for Busfield at the B Street Theater. At the time, she was 16 years old and says Busfield kissed her and touched her inappropriately. Court documents say Busfield begged the family not to report to law enforcement if he got therapy, which at the time, the family believed it was the best thing to do.
The investigation would commence. And then if the investigation rose to the level of warranting criminal charges, then the DA's office would file criminal charges.
Dale Gomes is a Sacramento-based attorney and is not connected to Busfield's case. Because the victim in Sacramento acknowledged the abuse happened a long time ago, Gomes says that can cause challenges.
They're always looking for every means to corroborate an accusation, whether it's a fresh accusation or one that's very, very old. The older it gets, the harder it is oftentimes to corroborate it.
Busfield's attorney tells ABC News that he denies these allegations and took a polygraph test and passed.
Now, Sacramento police tell us ABC 10 they are not aware of a report to the department regarding allegations relating to Timothy Busfield. The Sacramento County DA's office says it has not received a referral on this matter. I also reached out to Busfield's attorney in New Mexico, but did not receive a response. The Bernalillo County DA is expected to provide an update tomorrow. Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you. And we do want to mention that the B Street Theater confirms that they are aware of this new report involving the B Street Theater approximately 25 years ago. In a statement, they say in part, quote, B Street Theater retained legal counsel at the time to conduct an internal investigation, and Mr. Busfield has not had any role in the organization since 2001. He is not involved in our current operations, staff, leadership, or programming. Although he is listed as an emeritus board member, he has not participated in theater governance or attended a board meeting since that time. Today, a 3-judge federal panel ruled 2-1 to uphold Proposition 50, California's temporary redrawing of its congressional maps to give Democrats a 5-seat advantage. Californians overwhelmingly voted for Prop 50 in the November special election, but the California Republican Party and Trump administration sued, arguing it was unconstitutional. The plaintiffs had requested a preliminary injunction to pause the maps from taking effect as candidates file for the 2026 election. That motion was denied and sets the stage for appeals up to the Supreme Court. The judges said the plaintiffs failed to show racial gerrymandering occurred and that Prop 50 was purely for partisan political purposes. Fresno Assembly member David Tongipaw, one of the plaintiffs, spoke to us after the ruling.
It's really something that we weren't too surprised on. We sued off the basis that race played a predominant factor in this map-making process. You know, if all judges agreed unanimously, that's a very clear repudiation of where we're at. But this, in my opinion, was a fairly scathing dissent.
Democratic leaders say the judges have reaffirmed the voices of California voters. In a statement, Newsom reacting, saying in part, quote, Republicans' weak attempt to silence voters failed. California Attorney General Rob Bonta writing in part, quote, we remain confident in the legality of Proposition 50. Tongipal tells us an appeal will be filed to the Ninth Circuit Court, then to the Supreme Court if needed, something we will continue to follow. But new tonight, Assemblymember James Gallagher will run in the upcoming special election in the 1st Congressional District. This is to fill the vacancy left by the death of Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Today, we talked to the Assemblyman about his motivation behind his decision.
Representation is so vital, that you have someone who really represents your area, who really, brings the voice of Northern California to the halls of government. And I take that really seriously. It's a stewardship. It's something that was a big part of Doug's ethic, and it's mine as well.
State law requires Governor Newsom to call a special election within 14 days of the vacancy, but the office has not said when the election will be held. Meanwhile, we now have details on the memorial service for late Congressman Doug LaMalfa. The service will be held on Saturday, January 24th at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds in Chico. It starts at noon, and people are encouraged to arrive early to allow for parking as well as some security screenings. You do need to register to attend this event, and you can find more information up on our website right now over at abc10.com. A growing number of Democrats want to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem today. Illinois Congresswoman Robin Kelly spoke at a news conference to introduce 3 articles of impeachment, including obstruction of justice and violation of public trust. This is in the wake of the killing of a Minnesota woman by an ICE agent. Nearly 70 Democrats so far have supported the impeachment effort, including Sacramento Congresswoman Doris Matsui. We spoke with her just today. Take a listen.
She has lost the credibility and integrity to actually lead DHS, and she must be removed. And I'm hoping that there is enough here, so perhaps the president will finally decide that maybe she must go.
Now, you might be wondering, how do impeachment proceedings even work? So here's a quick look. According to the U.S. Senate, the House must approve the articles of impeachment by simple majority vote to charge a federal official before reaching the Senate for a trial. The Constitution requires a 2/3 vote of the Senate to convict. The impeachment effort is considered to be a long shot in the Republican-controlled House and Senate. Tonight, criticism continues to follow the governor's initial budget proposal for the next fiscal year, this time by healthcare advocates. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny Huh attended a rally by supporters just this morning and brings us this story tonight.
A lot happening at the Capitol on this Wednesday morning, but these advocates, they have been protesting against healthcare cuts for over a year now, from when Congress was first floating these federal funding cuts. And now they say the fight has come down to the state and local level, with the California legislature responsible for making up for those cuts.
We know that you are not responsible for these awful cuts, but now the responsibility does lie in your hands. Generating the revenue that we need is necessary to preserve and restore healthcare access, and we must make that a top priority this year.
Democratic Assembly member Mia Bonta, chair of the Assembly Health Committee, joining healthcare advocates demanding state action to backfill the funding gap left by Congress's so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
This is federal leadership at its worst.
State officials say the cuts will likely cost California an additional $1.4 billion, of which $1.1 billion will be for Medi-Cal, the state version of Medicaid.
It provides me with my epilepsy drugs and other drugs that support me to keep me alive.
Amanda Parker faces high risk of seizures. She's able to afford 24/7 support by caretakers like Liliana thanks to state insurance.
You know, there really isn't a plan to address potentially the loss of coverage for millions of people and what happens to them.
Advocates reacting to the governor's initial budget proposal, which acknowledged the cuts and absorbed the administrative costs resulting from new eligibility requirements, but provided no backup plan for the individual caseloads or benefits likely to be impacted.
And our message to him is, well, then what's your solution?
And we have to demand that the values of California be covered in that budget.
Because who gets to decide?
We do! We reached out to the governor's office. The Department of Finance responded, saying the administration is not in a position to backfill for this change in federal policy, given the significant budget deficits projected for the future. Jenny He, ABC 10.
Advocates tell us they will continue to keep an eye on lawmakers and the governor as they continue their discussions on the federal budget. We still have a lot more news to get to. Up ahead, onto the point, a political battle is brewing over a proposed tax on California billionaires. The warning tonight from tech leaders. And inflation is easing, but the pain is still very real at the grocery store. Coming up, smart ways to save you money.
And we're in this copy and paste weather pattern with foggy mornings, chilly mornings, but then very mild and sunny afternoons. We'll take a look at that weather pattern in detail after the break.
But first, in other headlines tonight, hundreds of protesters gathered today in front of the state capitol, demonstrating against the Iranian regime. They say they are standing with the people fighting for their freedom. Thousands of people have been killed in Iran, and the government is threatening to hang protesters. The government has also cut off the internet, cell phones, and landlines. Renee Good's family is now being represented by George Floyd's family's law firm. They are looking for answers and accountability for the Minneapolis mother's killing by a federal agent. The family's decision came after the Justice Department said there is no basis for a federal civil rights investigation. And the Trump administration is suspending immigrant visa processing from 75 countries. That includes Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, Haiti, Somalia, and Russia. The suspension applies to immigrant visas and not student and tourist visas. People from the impacted countries will still be allowed to visit the U.S. and attend school. More of the same in our forecast today. Let's get things over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef with a look ahead.
Yeah, just more of the same. Cold and foggy mornings and above average afternoons with sunshine. Copy and paste weather right now. 52 in Sacramento at the moment, 48 in Vacaville, 45 in Fairfield, 51 Stockton, 55 Modesto, 30s up in the high country. Looking towards the capital city, 52 degrees, same temperature as 24 hours ago, and that lack of wind will allow for that fog to return once again. So we're going to fall through the 40s as we head through the evening. We'll start off tomorrow morning in the 30s, just like we have for much of the last several mornings. I've got about 36 in Sacramento for Thursday morning, 40 in Vacaville, 38 Fairfield, 39 in Elk Grove, 37 Stockton, 38 Manteca and Tracy, 39 Modesto, 40s and 50s in the foothills, 14 in Truckee, 20 in South Lake Tahoe. So chilly and fog developing once again as we go through the overnight and into the morning hours. Some of it could be dense, which means visibility less than a quarter of a mile. Tomorrow afternoon, temperatures once again above normal in the upper 50s to about 60 degrees, 59 in Sacramento, 61 Vacaville, 58 in Fairfield, 59 Stockton, 60 Modesto. Again, foggy, then sunny, 68 in Placerville, 68 in Angels Camp, 71 Nevada City, 70 in Sonora, 40s up in the high country on Thursday. The reason for our copy and paste weather, high pressure just continues to sit over the west coast. The one thing that will change as we head into the weekend is as the center of this high pressure moves a little further north, we'll get just a little bit of a northerly breeze down the valley. That should help to limit that fog development somewhat in the mornings. Let's talk about the November to December time period, though. California had its warmest November and December, that 2-month stretch on record as a state. But as we look at the counties, it's a little bit of a different story. The Northeast, the North Coast, all the way down through the Central Coast, Southern California, hottest on record for many locations. You see that departure from normal there. But remember, we had a ton of Thule fog in November, December here in the valley. So Sacramento, Solano, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Kings County did not have their warmest November and December on record, and yet it was still a top 15 warmest November and December period. So that gives you something to think about. Consistent temperatures, copy and paste weather for the next several days, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, Denmark and Greenland reject U.S. pressure as the fight over Arctic security heats up, and we are helping you ease the pain at the supermarket with some simple ways to cut costs. A proposed tax on California billionaires is rattling Silicon Valley, with many threatening to leave the state. The effort is driven by the SEIU, the powerhouse healthcare union that is gathering signatures to put the measure on the ballot this November. Reporter Monica Madden is tracking the developments for us.
Will California soon be taxing the ultra-wealthy more? It depends. In a state home to the highest concentration of billionaires, a growing effort to tax their assets is igniting a political firestorm.
It's a terrible idea.
Silicon Valley leaders slamming the effort on the All In podcast.
If you get stuck in success with a bunch of illiquid stock and have no way to pay 5% of that value, you're going to bankrupt your own company.
Largely backed by healthcare union SEIU, the ballot proposal would ask voters to approve a one-time 5% tax on billionaires' net worth.
Billionaires pay a 20% lower effective tax rate than the average American, not even, 20% lower than millionaires or something than the average American. That was shocking to us.
Tax law expert Brian Galley is advising the proposal. He says it's the best way to make up for federal cuts contributing to California's budget deficit.
Bigger hit to California's economy is if we can't cover that sharp spike in healthcare costs, right? That's what's going to stop the next generation of startups and entrepreneurs from being able to afford to leave their current, health insurance and go, take a risk on their exciting new idea.
Other leaders think it might be hard to pull off.
Because if you're a billionaire, you can hire a lot of people who find those loopholes and who find those places where you can shuffle the funds to your tax advantage. Don't forget, the billionaires will still be billionaires after you collect.
Supporters need more than 870,000 voter signatures to make the November ballot. But Governor Gavin Newsom, a longtime opponent of a wealth tax, is vowing to quash the effort, telling the New York Times, quote, "This will be defeated. There's no question in my mind."
Officials from Denmark and Greenland are reiterating their stance that Greenland is not for sale after an hours-long meeting with Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance at the White House today. The Trump administration has said for months that it wants to acquire Greenland for national security. The president falsely claims China and Russia are building a military presence off the coast of Greenland, which Arctic researchers have refuted. At the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen today, protesters showed their support for Greenland's sovereignty and their concern President Trump will follow through on his promise.
I'm afraid that he will destroy the NATO alliance, that he will, and he threatens our kingdom and the Greenlanders.
The Danish Ministry of Defense today announced a joint NATO effort to expand the military presence in and around Greenland. That effort also includes officers from Sweden. Jumping into your price points now, high prices continue to weigh heavily on Americans' minds and wallets. The good news is that inflation continues to cool, although slowly, but things like food, housing, energy costs all went up, and those categories impact monthly budgets, as we know. Tonight, Jen Sullivan looks at ways that you can lower your grocery costs.
The cost of living continues to rise, and consumers are really feeling the crunch at the grocery store.
A lot of people are feeling a lot more pressure shopping for their families.
Kristen McGrath is a senior editor at The Crazy Coupon Lady, a company dedicated to finding ways to save.
Couponing can absolutely make a difference, and how much exactly you're going to save is going to depend on what you need.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently broke down the average amount mainland Americans spend on groceries last year. For a family of 4 with 2 kids between ages 6 to 8 and 9 to 11, on the low end, the cost was close to $1,000 in November, with liberal spending as much as $1,600 a month. Compare that spending to 5 years ago, and it's about a few $100s more each month. And food prices continue to go up. The latest Consumer Price Index report shows food prices jumped 0.7% last month. That's where couponing can help. A wide variety of apps can help you find coupons for the items you need at the stores you shop at.
If you're not paying full price, you're winning.
Another tip, memberships to warehouse retail chains like Sam's Club or Costco.
You're buying things in bulk, you're buying more upfront, so that per unit cost, that per pound or that per ounce is going to be a lot lower.
Also, sign up for store rewards programs. And McGrath says grocery stores will also discount items that are close to expiring. She recommends asking the manager about markdowns. And lastly, stick to a list. That can help deter impulse buying.
All right, an update on that breaking news out of Minneapolis. New information into our newsroom. We have learned a federal officer shot a person in the leg, allegedly after being hit with a shovel during an arrest. The shooting took place less than 5 miles from where an immigration agent fatally shot Renee Good on January 7th. Right now, there are a number of protesters at the scene, along with federal law enforcement. We will continue to follow this story this evening on air and online. As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think me and the team should be looking into, you can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. And don't forget, Our Champions of Hope is airing tomorrow too. I'm so excited to bring you this story. We actually went to a local band practice, and it was a quite unique and exciting experience. I can't wait to share it with you, but it really just shows what happens when people are given the space to grow, what they can do with their musical instruments. So make sure you tune into that for tomorrow for some happy news. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.